Alrighty, everyone, how's it going? So I'll try and keep this as short as I can. Face it though, if you can watch a 20-minute of a OANN crap video, you should be able to put up with at least 8 minutes of this. But just leading in with this, so it's going to be interesting if this video gets fact checked or not. But this is about the Georgia election, and say it one last time, I was right again. I knew it would happen. I saw it coming since December, and honestly, like I've said too, no mainstream conservatives were covering it. So it doesn't surprise me one bit that this happened. And the Stop the Steal caravan idiots who went to DC instead should have been in Georgia. It boggles my mind how these people can gather this much support for, not to make it sound rude, but a worthless cause. So, and my disclaimer here, okay, not an attorney. All right, I thought about going to law school. I only got a 167 on the LSAT, and I heard that's terrible. Sarcasm. But so one thing though too with the law, and this is the reason why I didn't pursue law school, is I saw that it was moving towards emotional state of law, not factual. And this was back in 2016 when I thought about going to law school. So I've seen this stuff coming forever. It's not hard. You just have to tune out everything. So, and just remember, the law doesn't apply to members of Congress, the rich, especially Democrats. So with the runoff, was it fraud or was it not following their rules? I mean, is there a difference? Now, I'm still waiting on the final number count, but from what I was doing last night, both parties lost votes compared to their runoff. But I was just comparing the Loeffler Warnock one. So the Perdue one, I'll judge that too, because even on the general election, Perdue election had more people vote for it than the Loeffler campaign. And just really quick with Loeffler, the other major Republican candidate, I forgot his name. I thought it was David something, but he came in at 980,000 votes. And who's to say if Loeffler wasn't in there, if he would have won? But I don't know anything about that guy, and it seemed that Loeffler was just a rich person. So what law did they break? Well, this is in their Constitution, Article 2, Section 2, Paragraph 2. And that's what it says. So a runoff shall be in continuation of the general election. Only persons who were entitled to vote in the general election shall be entitled to vote therein. So there's the source. So what does that mean? Well, entitled is having a right to certain benefits or privileges. So only those that were eligible to vote in the general election, meaning registered, can vote in a runoff. That's basically what it comes down to. So now if they were registered and didn't vote, they're still allowed to vote in the runoff. But if they didn't, then oh well. So, and then this was just one article I found from the Chicago Tribune. So 76,000 first-time voters. They registered after the presidential race. The law is pretty simple. Honestly, there should have been no new first-time voters, according to their own Constitution. So, and then it said some had just turned 18. Well, too bad. You're born when you're born. And then some just gained residency. And that's going to be the other issue, the residency thing. And, earlier, Stacey Abrams' sister was that judge who dismissed the suit about 4,000 votes being questioned for residency. And she just tossed the suit. And there's a thing about federal law overriding state law. And it was a Breitbart article, whatever. I don't follow them. So, but they mentioned it and it said Georgia source. Well, I don't know who the source was and I don't know what federal law they're talking about. But, with the Supreme Court decision in Texas, or for Texas, the Supreme Court made it clear states can make their own laws within reason. So now all of a sudden, though, federal law overrides a state law. And the only thing I can think that they're doing is citing this, the National Voter Registration Act, and this stuff is what basically I sent in to the Secretary of State, to their election fraud website. So I quoted the act to protect the integrity of the electoral process. Well, if integrity is based on the law and doing what's right when no one's around, if it's not followed, of course, integrity of election is going to be called into question. And then Section 5, state of election officials to assess the eligibility of the applicant. Now, this is pertain to motor vehicle application, because normally when you register a motor vehicle, you're going to be registered an election, and they are allowed to look into your residency. So if they're allowed to look into your residency on your driver's license, what is the difference if it's an election? If valid voter registration from applicant received no later than 30 days. This talks about registration for residency. The Supreme Court did rule that residency laws are unconstitutional, but they even agreed to a 30-day registration period. The problem is, though, if a runoff is a continuation of a general election, there is no registration frame because the law doesn't allow it. And it has nothing to do with discrimination. It's just based on numbers. And it's unfair for a runoff election to have more votes or potential voters to cause swings. And this one right here, Section 8, about removing names of ineligible voters, conduct a general program that makes a reasonable effort. This comes from another lawsuit that was tossed to where a judge ruled that it was not on legal grounds or it would cause a burden on the state to remove the names. Well, the NVRA, if you're going to say that federal law overrides state law in a general election, then why doesn't this count now? They've been picking and choosing the whole time what laws to contradict and what laws they want to follow. The election clause, this one is really interesting. It directs and empowers states to determine times, places, and manners of congressional elections subject to Congress's authority to make or alter state regulations. I didn't see Congress make any alteration to the Georgia state laws, not one. And you guys, if you follow me, you know that I go through Congress, what they do on a near daily basis. So, and I believe this also was cited in the Texas Supreme Court decision. So if states are allowed to make their own laws based on what the Constitution says, and if the Constitution is the law of the land, why isn't it being followed? And again, it's just has to do with them picking and choosing. More of it. Laws requiring people to register in advance of elections or mandating that they vote their assigned polling places are exactly the type of restrictions that the election clause permits. It allows it. It says you have to register in a certain amount of time or vote at your certain polling place. But then again, though, if the state law says something different, but this did not come up as an issue that I saw. So, but in order to vote in a runoff, you had to be entitled in the general. So it's within perfect legal grounds of the election clause. And the last one, 14th Amendment, having to be entitled to vote in a general election, it doesn't discriminate by anything. Race, age, sex, it doesn't discriminate, okay? It just says you have to be entitled to the general. That's it. There's no discrimination in that. It's a matter of it just carrying over and being fair, but fair is not a word that people like to hear these days. So, and then back to the residency thing. So I already talked about that, 30-day registration, and that is a Supreme Court case. I don't have the source down, but I did read it. It is a Supreme Court case. I know I have it in my other videos. So, but registration deadline was for the 7th. And what's odd is after the general election, people had to re-register, even if they had already voted in the general. So that makes no sense to me on Georgia. And then about people moving to the state just to vote. It's a felony in Georgia and a felony basically anywhere. That is federal law. So, but is this going to be looked into? No, it's not. And this is from Raffensperger. And then just some other reports, hypocrisy reports I found. So when CNN reported on people traveling to Georgia to help out with the election, they interviewed a person from California that's on a mandatory stay at home. And it's not even like they're trying to hide that they're doing stuff like this. It's crazy. And then basically everything I just went over, I wrote a letter, like I said, to the Georgia Secretary of State fraud site. That is literally, I still have the email if anyone wants to question me. That is literally verbatim what this guy said. So now the laws, they don't follow them. They just want to wait till they get challenged in court to get thrown out, basically is what it comes to. And I was going to show people, I have other videos up. The Arizona election, I did 8 days of research, guys. I backtracked everything, screenshots, government website sources, and Arizona news sources. Compiled everything. And those are the people who I sent it to. Those are the people who I got responses from. And, in closing, we're screwed. And like I said yesterday, 168 bills in Congress were introduced. So, and everything that's going on right now in the Capitol with Trump supporters storming it, it's going to be bad because that's just more ammunition for them to deem people enemies of the state. So, but really quick, and I'll show you guys. I have videos on all this stuff. So if you guys if you're interested in my Maricopa stuff, but 82 slides of math and sources and everything. And this is just my PowerPoint. I made a Benford's Law graph, spreadsheets with graphs comparing. I got graphs of the days. I went by day of using it and tallied votes that way. There was 2 spikes in Arizona, and my problem with spikes though is like what I found in Maricopa. One spike benefited Trump. He got most of the votes, but the issue is with me, and it goes, I don't care who the candidate was, how are they able to process that many votes? And it's funny that I ended up on that. So, because there was 142,000 votes to process, and then they counted 119,000 in 2 hours. So vote spikes, it's nothing new, but is any of this going to get solved in the next 4 years? No, it's going to get worse. So there you have it. That's my take on Georgia. I knew it was going to happen. I saw it happening as it was going on, and no one wanted to talk about it but me. So, if you like the channel and everything, hope you guys follow, because if not, you're going to be really uninformed. Because after Georgia now, I have this huge feeling like information suppression is going to be increased tenfold.